let's speak to it. Like, what are the possibilities? There's something we're talking about equality, equality, equity, and all that. How does it play into? She said tech becomes like an equalizer, right? So how do you see that play out into attaining that Nigerian dream?
Fantastic. So there's a new concept called DEAI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and now access as the fourth number. If you look at access, in that case, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it has a technological component. I would have thought that post-COVID-19, the advent of the future of work, in terms of including tech space, it was an avenue for us to have more gender inclusion. I'll give a clear example. In 2021, I did a study for Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on women's economic empowerment. And part of our discovery was that beyond education, one of the greatest forms of women's economic empowerment is technology. So our thinking around it is that the future of work is one that is sensitive to gender, it's one that is sensitive to women when we talk about gender inclusion. If you also look at the gender equality bill that was stepped down, I think in 2021 to 2022 by the National Assembly, it was a sad reality, but I think it was one that should have been able to address issues around gender inclusion as it relates to women. Because if you look at our poverty numbers, 60%, 6 out of every 10 poor Nigerians are women or girls. And the assumption is that for us to address issues around poverty, at the front burner should be discussing conversations around using technology, using the IT to see how we can leverage or address issues around poverty, absolute poverty to be specific. And I think it is one that workspaces at the moment are, again, sensitive of gender issues. I've done some grant reviews in the past, and one of the unspoken rules we look out for when we do background checks on companies is to see how gender sensitive or gender inclusive they are. So I think it is one that resonates with us. But again, if I go to your second question, what are the possibilities? I will take you back to, if you read a book called Prosperity Paradox, written by Clayton Christensen, it clearly highlights that for us to attain growth or development, we must key in market disruptive innovation. And when you talk of market disruptive innovations, it clearly will be led by young people, youth, at the forefront. I'm sure Nigerians' youth have proven to be resilient. If you look at, we have been able to use social media, for instance, during the NTAS to air our voices. In the last good governance and bad governance protest, we have been able to use social media to demand accountability from the government. But I think it's also something Nigerian youths have also shown to be resilient. We have had some unicorn companies that has over $1 billion valuation in the world globally have been led by Nigerians. It's showing you that Nigerians are actually willing if they have the right support. But then there have been issues around funding, there have been issues around business climate being favorable to Nigerians. But again, like I said, we must upskill our youth, which is critical. So we must include things like artificial intelligence, machine learning. They are newer concepts in our educational curriculum. But again, it hasn't trickled down to secondary, the primary level. We need to include things like coding in our curriculum. And again, it must come from an educational planner. So these things are interrelated. But I'm sure Nigerian youths are ready. But if we are offered the right support, the right funding, the right platform, the right policy framework, we'd achieve more than what we think we are doing. And again, I'll take us back to Kanju. The Kanju is a concept raised by a Nigerian, where she said the Kanju spirit is the spirit of resilience, the spirit of hard work. And that Kanju spirit can only be seen by the spirit of Nigerians or Africans.
All right. I'm hoping viewers at home are enjoying this because it's so beautiful and enlightening. I'm hoping we're trying to, envision, we're trying to cook together what we can, attain as a Nigerian people called the Nigerian dream. Coming back to you, Ms. Tinoade, he has just driven us into your main space when it comes to tech and disruptions. And so we started off with digital innovation. And the question will be, how do we envision a future, for the average Nigerian youth, looking at that whole innovation process, that can usher us into the digital future we're looking out for. I think that's your forte. So tell us, how will this, play out?
So much. Yeah, I know the last question I answered based on the context of youth, but because I'm also a STEM inclusion advocate that is advocating every time for more girls and women in STEM, I would say that one of the challenges that we are seeing is that there are these biases that exist, and it kind of limits how girls and women find their place in the tech space especially. So I encourage girls and women and say that, you see, the whole ecosystem is like a puzzle. You see yourself in the big picture and you'll be able to fit in. Now, coming back to the future digital innovations and all, I think we need to start coming to the concept where we deal with things as it comes to us directly and not like a copy and paste kind of methodology. And why did I say this? Many a times in this part of the world, we tend to consume so much rather than producing. And that's largely taking us steps backward. But thank God for the resilient spirit of the youth and the people of the country, because we are always looking for ways to get better. We need to break some barriers. And many a times we don't even look at that. I like the point that Victor mentioned about bringing coding, AI and all that. But the truth is that we all agree that because a youth, a girl or a boy or a woman does not speak English, does not make them illiterate. We need to start bringing this concept to how we can directly consume or deal with them or actualize them. So do we still have programming languages that now people that don't speak English language, for instance, can code with our own native languages, maybe Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, and every other language that we have in this country that is really diverse. So we need to start looking in that direction of concepts so that we are able to utilize technology to its fullest. See what is happening in China, for instance. I know just yesterday my boys were telling me that, in North Korea, I said maybe there are some North Koreans there. I said no, they don't really allow them to travel because everything they want to do, they do it right there. And it comes down to the fact that if they need to innovate things that they can consume, do they need like an outsider? We need to start seeing the effect and application of technology as it trickles down to affecting us directly. And that speaks to applicability. Okay, we want to develop things that are globally relevant, but we need to meet our own local issues. And that is really paramount. Not until we begin to see in that direction. Honestly, we will not have it really big. So we need to start looking at how to bring technology in what's manufacturing. Today, in my own space, we import almost everything we use in the telecom space.
All right. I want to hold you there and come quickly because we are almost running out of time. In 1 minute, okay. She has really come into sovereignty and collaborations. I want you to speak to that in just 1 minute. I mean, we just had a collaboration right now with France. In 1 minute, how does this tie into, taking Nigeria to that step where we want, the Nigerian youth to achieve the dream?
Yeah, I'm worried with the current bilateral romance between Nigeria and France because the French economy has been supportive to the Nigerian economy in terms of, if you look at Total in areas of oil and gas, if you look at most of the most recent bilateral relationship is around security, bearing in mind that most of our border countries or neighbors are
Francophone.
Yeah. They are Francophone. If you look at issues in terms of support to the economy, the second highest creditor apart from China is the French through the AFD. That's the French Development Bank. And they have been supportive, but I'm sure a lot of Nigerians are beginning to raise questions, particularly looking at the Burkina Faso experience, Niger, and our neighbors that have not panned out well, the bilateral relationship between these countries. But Nigeria is a key player in the African economy, and I think the French even understands that it is difficult to discuss the African economy without including Nigeria. So the recent relationship is supposed to foster
more growth.
Yeah, more growth between both countries, but I hope it's not one that is parasitic.